Hi, this is Detronus here. I am here with some patch 1.02 changes for Destiny. Now, if you look at these changes, they're quite exciting. Bungie is finally looking human and coming to their senses. My interest is now being revived in Destiny. There were so many problems with the game, I thought, that I kind of just lost interest after a while. The game turned out to be kind of shallow, with no loot to really chase after or entice me to keep playing. But here we see that Bungie is noticing some of these problems, namely that the first problem they noticed was the aggravation in finding a legendary engram, and it turning out to be a rare or even an uncommon, which is just a slap in the face. So here we see some Cryptarch changes, and right here the biggest change so far in this patch 1.02 is that legendary engrams will always produce legendary or better quality items, including materials or exotics. So that is very awesome. So whenever you get a legendary engram, it will be legendary. It's just kind of silly. They said this was a positive addition to the game, that there was the chance for legendary engrams or rare engrams to drop or to produce items lesser quality than that, which was just really stupid, to be honest. I don't see why, for the sake of randomness, that aggravation needed to be added into the game. How about for the sake of randomness, you randomize their drop rates, or you randomize the items they produce from the engrams, which they already are. Why a third layer of randomness is beyond me. I don't understand that. But that is changing. Bungie quickly saw this was a stupid decision, and they are making it where legendary engrams drop legendary or better items. And same with rare engrams. Very nice. Now, a second change is the activity changes. Basically, I'll just read it off to you. Daily Heroics, Weekly Heroics, and Vanguard Tiger playlist activities will now include rare and legendary engrams in addition to their existing rewards. So this creates more desire to do these. Before, it was kind of annoying. I mean, I got to the point where I was, what's the point of doing these? I already got the items I need from the reputation vendors. I don't really care to level them up further because it takes a while, just for a chance to get a legendary engram and the postmaster from them, which would most likely be a rare or uncommon engram anyways. So now there's actually a purpose to these. They drop rare and legendary engrams in addition to their existing rewards. So this means that because there's rare and legendary engrams, you have the chance to get legendary materials, which you'll need to level up exotic and legendary engrams. Also, you'll get strange coins, most likely. Sometimes you get strange coins from rare and legendary engrams, so it's really nice to get that as a possibility, as a reward to doing these things. So it adds more usefulness to these daily and weekly and Vanguard playlists. Simply put, this is more rewards. Now lastly, some item changes. Ascendant materials have been promoted to legendary to closer associate them with the gear they are used to upgrade. Okay, not really a big deal there. But here, lastly, legendary engram items that exist in your inventory will be demoted to rare quality when the patch goes live, so decode them while you can. But let's be honest, even if you don't, we all know they were blues already. So what we see here is two important things. One, you can't just stash a bunch of legendary engrams if you're playing right now and say, oh, let's farm up legendary engrams, and we'll wait until the patch hits, and then we'll decode them and get legendary items guaranteed. Oh, finally, what an awesome strategy. No, that won't work. They are automatically degraded to rare quality. So you might be able to get legendary engrams from them because rares drop rare or better quality items now, but it's not guaranteed. Alright, and the second important thing here is this. It's a little joke, right? But let's be honest, even if you don't, we already know they were blues. This implies something big. This implies that Bungie is taking feedback. They're understanding problems with their game, and they see their flaws, and they make fun of it a little bit. They're poking at themselves right here, right? They're making fun of themselves, making fun of their decisions, and that they realize that we're just wrong for the game and the player base. This is a very good sign moving into the future that Bungie will take care of this game, and they are out there looking at how players play their game, and they're fixing it, right? Bungie is, let's be honest, Bungie is no noob when it comes to first-person shooters. But Bungie seemingly doesn't have have much experience at all doing loot-based dungeon crawling games. It's just a new category for them, and they need time to grow. Now, here's some more changes coming up. I won't go through all of them. You can read them, look them up. But in addition to the loot being changed, like I discussed on this page with the Cryptarch changes, they're obviously nerfing the whole cave farming. I made a video about this, how to farm for legendary Ingrams efficiently. Pretty much a lot of people did as well. We all know this cave farming tactic, but Bungie doesn't want you to do it. Here's what they say: but shooting at a black hole for hours on end isn't our dream for how Destiny is played. Our hope is that social engagement in public spaces is only one part of Destiny experience. Expect changes. Basically, they're nerfing it. They want to redirect you to other activities. Much like Diablo 3, where chest farming routes came up and it was more efficient to do chest farming runs, remake the games constantly, just to run after chests to get legendaries in that game. They redirected you by nerfing the drops from chests and like buffing drops and like rifts and things like that, and this is essentially what Bungie's doing. The sad thing here is, they say shooting at a black hole for hours on end isn't our dream for how Destiny is played. Yet, how is Destiny played right now? Destiny's played by repeating the same missions, whether that's weekly heroics, daily heroics, or even strikes, over and over in an attempt to get loot. That isn't really fun most of the time. That's why I kind of left Destiny for a bit, and I'm giving it a second shot here. So they don't want you shooting at a black hole for hours on end to get loot. That's not their dream for how Destiny's played, but their dream apparently for how Destiny's played is repeating story missions that have incessant amounts of defend this objective for X amount of waves. And Dinklebot goes over there to the computer or the door, and he hacks it or tries to retrieve some information, and it takes roughly about 3 waves of enemies for him to finish this process.
They know we're here. I'll get to work.
And that's how it is most of the time. It's kind of annoying, so I don't really understand this here. I mean, I think the cave farming should be nerfed. I certainly don't want to be shooting at a hole as my only way of getting items, but Destiny doesn't really have a base for interesting gameplay outside of shooting at a cave for hours. Farming the same mundane, boring missions for hours isn't fun either. So let's go on. The one thing they are changing to make those mundane missions a little bit better is by making the strike missions a little less grindy. And if you've done your strikes, you know they are really grindy, especially when it comes to bosses. The bosses in these strike missions and in this game in general are horrible. Most of the time, there's no mechanic beyond just shooting the boss repeatedly in the face with whatever weapon you have. And this process, even when you have like level 29 players in your group, takes more than 10 minutes. It's just so disgustingly boring. So hopefully making strike missions a little less grindy helps Destiny fix this horrible situation right now. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is balance. Balance when it comes to a loot-based dungeon crawling game, especially if it has PvP components in it, is supremely important. And here Bungie says their goal when balancing Destiny is to never have one player choice. For example, a choice of class or weapon. Either be so much better than the alternatives that it is the only valid choice. And this is very important that they understand this in this kind of game. And I'm not sure if they'll ever achieve this balance, really. At least achieve a balance with interesting and fun gameplay, because they're balancing 2 different components. They're balancing PvE and PvP. And just like World of Warcraft, with arena and raids, and trying to balance classes out with items, it's very difficult. That's why Diablo 3 doesn't have an arena of sorts right now, or any kind of PvP outside of seasonal leaderboards where you're competing against other players, but in PvE content with time-based content and stuff like that. So it's going to be very difficult for Bungie to do this. They're going to have to make a sacrifice, and that sacrifice is going to be in making items uninteresting. And they've already done that with certain items like Thorn and Bad Juju. They're just uninteresting, and thankfully Bungie sees that with some of these items. What they say here is particularly these items have disappointed many of us who have gone through the great effort to obtain them. because despite looking and sounding amazing, by the way, they don't really sound amazing, they feel underpowered. And you know, a lot of items in this game actually feel undesirable. That's why I stopped for a little bit. A lot of the legendaries and even exotics are just increasing your damage, right? Or increasing the reload speed, or just other little things where it's an upgrade simply means more defense and more attack power, which isn't very interesting, right? It's very boring to me, but I'll add that in another video. I don't want to derail this right here. The important thing here is they are balancing the game. Shotguns are stupid in PvP, to be honest. It's the only weapon you need to use in almost every map. You just want to run around with a shotgun because it's so overpowered. But they're decreasing that. They are saying shotguns today are beyond their intended range, so they're nerfing their range. They're saying auto rifles do too much damage, even at long range. They beat scout and pulse rifles in some circumstances, and that's true. If you get an auto rifle with high stability and decent impact, you can just hold the trigger down at a long range. And it's kind of silly that they beat out scout and pulse rifles, so they're addressing that. They're going to increase the stability and damage adjustments to the auto rifle. So let's conclude our discussion. Beyond these changes, there's one important thing, and that's the implication that Bungie does care about this game. If Bungie and the consumer are honest with themselves, they'd realize that Destiny is off to a rough start. Gameplay right now is very shallow and repetitive, and there's not really many items that are interesting to get. And even if you get those items that might increase your damage or defense slightly, it doesn't really matter in the end of things for how enemies are tuned. I can be level 28 or 29 or even 30, and level 7 monsters can take me out in several hits. Loot-based games are all about a power curve, and Destiny simply doesn't have an interesting power curve. But again, these changes let us know that Bungie listens to their consumers. And though that even Destiny is kind of shallow right now in terms of gameplay and its item design, those things can be fixed over time, and it seems like Bungie has the desire to fix those things. The longevity of video games right now are more important than ever. Publishers want consumers to play their games as long as possible, and this not only keeps their brand relevant, but increases the likelihood of consumers to make repeat purchases like DLC or expansion passes. So beneath the changes of patch 1.02, which will come out next week, we see an attitude coming from Bungie that says that they care about the longevity and direction of this game. And that's very good news for those who purchased Destiny.